finance and financial freedom. So give opportunity to our deacon to introduce himself to our audience.
Thank you. Well, my name is Isaac Ocherdako. I'm part of the body of Christ here in Maryland. I have fellowship with the Church of Pentecost, PIWC Assembly, and the financial secretary there, managing the affairs there. So that is just pretty much about me.
Okay.
Yeah. Welcome to the show.
Welcome to the program. We're
Thank
definitely are very privileged to have you here.
Thank you.
So we've been talking the whole month of April. We've been talking about finance, and we're talking about managing our resources. And financial management is definitely one of those areas. As Christians, we know that we have to work on, and we have to do such a good job. So today we are going to have our wonderful deacon who's going to really help us to break stuff down, to help us to understand what are some areas of our weaknesses that we can work on, and most importantly, what will make us aware, or what are some of the red flags that we can deal with. So first we're going to start with credit score, or when it comes to your credit. What does that mean when it comes to your credit?
Well, thanks for the opportunity. I'm very happy to be here to be able to share. So I think that, in the area of finance and we being able to manage our finances is one of the things that God requires of us. Even the Bible says in the book of Proverbs chapter 22, verses 7, that the rich rules over the poor. Mm-hmm. And the Bible continues to say that that in the affairs of men, anybody that borrows money is a slave, to the borrower.
lender.
Of course.
Yes, to the lender.
Mm-hmm.
So the borrower is a slave to the lender. So it is imperative that believers in this day and age know how to manage their finances. And for those of us here in the diaspora, one of the very, very critical things is your credit score. Mm-hmm. Many a time, people, there is a huge myth about credit scores. Mm-hmm. And today, I believe that the Holy Spirit would help us to be able to, demystify some of these things that we have, realized and been taught in the past. Mm-hmm. So, credit score. What is credit score? Credit score is a 3-digit number that rates your credibility, rates your ability to for lenders to know whether you are able to pay what is given to you. And so it's a 3-digit number, and usually it ranges between 300 to 850 or to 850. Okay. And it entails a lot. So in a nutshell, credit score is a 3-digit number that is able to predict your credibility in this country.
Okay.
When you say credibility, are you talking about how credit-worthy you are, or what do you mean by credibility?
So credibility, I'm talking in terms of creditors being able to determine whether you are worthy to be entrusted with an amount of money, or with a house. For instance, if you wanted to buy a house, or if you're looking for money to buy a car, they want to be able to ascertain that this person is worthy to give money to.
Okay.
Yes. And so that is mainly your credibility, whether would you be able to pay back the money that will be given to you, or is it going to end up in a bad debt? So that's your credibility.
Okay. So when we are talking about what make up our credit score, so most people said, oh, you have bad credit score, like you said, a 300 to the 850. Some people will look at it and they will think, oh, okay, I have 600, so I'm good. But what make up our credit score, and what should we be looking out for?
All right. So, first of all, there's another component of a credit score. There's the credit report.
Okay.
So there are a number of things that makes up a credit score. Now, a credit score is not just a digit. There is something related to it, and some of those things could be your credit utilization, right? And some of those things could be credit inquiries. All of those things come into play into the algorithm that produces your credit score. And so it entails a lot of things. Now, somebody could have 750 credit score. How is it calculated? There is an algorithm that is used to calculate it. Okay. And so there is two, before we launch deep, let me say that there is two main things in credit scores. Okay. There is the FICO, which everybody knows, and there is what we call the Vantage score.
Okay.
Did you say everybody knows the FICO? I don't know what it is.
So I'm sorry. What the FICO and the Vantage score means.
Oh, what does it mean?
Our viewers want to know. Moment you're true. Remember, there are two things we have to look out for when it comes to the credit score.
Right. So when it comes to credit score, there's two forms of credit scores. There's the Vantage and there's the FICO. So the FICO is the older one. That is the one that has been around for a long time. Okay. The FICO actually started, the company was founded in 1959 by two people, a guy called Fair and another guy called Isaac. So it was named as the Fair Isaac Corporation, and it was enacted in
FICO. Okay.
Yes. So it was enacted in 1959, but it actually took effect in the U.S. In 1989.
Wow.
1989 was when it actually took effect. And they use data science or data analytics to, and some kind of algorithm to be able to predict that number. And so that was when, FICO actually came into play. And so for a long time, FICO, was used by a lot of companies. In fact, it is used by about 90% of the companies, of the lenders in America. Okay. And then in 2006, the 3 credit bureaus came up with what we call Vantage in 2006, because they wanted to be able to create their own form of credit scores. Okay. And so they came up with what we call the Vantage score. The main 3 credit bureaus being Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax. Now, we should also be aware that there is a 4th one called Innovis. Okay. So most people don't know about it. People know about the 3, and so there's a 4th one called Innovis. So people can check them out. You can Google it and be able to find information on that one. So pretty much. Your credit score entails a lot of things. It has your what we call a credit utilization, your credit inquiry. There is other things that come into play. Something like where you have lived in a particular time, or your stay for the last 7 or 10 years. All of these come into play, and all of these are reported on your credit report.
I see.
All of these are reported on your credit report. And if you have had any bankruptcies, all of those are reported on your credit report. And all of these come into play to make up your credit score. But usually before a lender gives you money or sees that you're credible, they go through your credit report. They have to look to see if you are indeed worthy
of credit.
If
your credit's worthy.
Yes. So when you're looking at, you said credit utilization.
Yes.
Is credit utilization where you build up your credit in order for you to have a good credit report? Or how do you use credit utilization to build up your credit score?
So that is a very good question. And I would like to, break down that credit utilization now. So credit utilization is basically how much you spend on your card.
Okay.
So for instance...
What do you mean by on your card?
For instance, the majority of people here in this country have what we call credit cards.
Oh, so you're referring to the card,
yes.
The credit.
So now, on a credit card, I believe that most people have it. There is so many ways to obtain credit cards. You could go through, the banks to, get one. You could go through, maybe a credit union to be able to get one. And I don't think we want to go into all of that. But credit utilization actually is 30% of your credit report.
Okay.
And it is very, very vital. So many people don't know this. And the problem is, some of these things are not taught in schools.
Of course.
You know, and so sometimes we come here into this country, you know, and even people are born here and they have no idea how to manage their, you know, credit in this country. Credit utilization is basically the amount that you have used on your card,
Okay.
divided by the total available credit. Right? And so let's say if you have $1,000 credit card, and you have used 30%, let's say you've used $300 of it. So the $300 that you have used divided by the total amount or the total available credit of $1,000 gives you your credit utilization.
Okay.
And it is imperative that we understand that your credit utilization forms about 35% of your credit report, of your credit score.
Okay.
You know, and so you would see that there are so many people whose credit is bad. Why? Because they have overused their
Amounts.
overextend
on their amounts on their card.
It is better when you are at 30%. As soon as you use more than 30% of the amount on the card, then your credit score begins to go down drastically.
I see.
But so many people do not know this. And so sometimes, you know, people think credit is, you know, it's free money.
People actually add their credit card money into their overall spending.
Right.
And they just pay the bare minimum and they keep spending on the credit card.
Right.
And you cannot do that. Moment you're realizing that credit utilization is actually harming your credit score.
Right. So the credit utilization is very, very, very important. For you to be very, very credible, you look at how much you have spent, you know, on your card, or how much you are owing compared to how much, you know, the total available credit that you have. You know, and so you would see that people have maybe about, you know, 2,000 on maybe a Wells Fargo card, or maybe 3,000 on Capital One card, or maybe a credit union card that was given to them. You know, and then they have spent more than 60% of it on each of the cards.
That's so many put together.
Yes. You know, when that happens, your credit utilization is, you know, way up, and it's very, very difficult for you to be trusted. And also, it creates the impression that you have no money management.
Of course.
You know, and so it doesn't make you credible. And so it is advised that anybody, you know, for you to be very, very, very useful in terms of managing your credit card, you have to learn to stay within 30% or less.
Okay.
30% or less.
You know, one of the things that I've also seen is that, let's just say you talk about, you know, keeping your balance or keeping the account 30 or less. I see people open like 3 or 4 different cards, and then they have like 30 or less on 3 or different cards. But combining, does that also affect your credit score? Meaning that you have 4 or 5 different credit cards that you have 30 or less on them, or does it matter when you do that?
So the main thing is, ideally, the most credit cards you need is only 3.
3 credit cards?
Yes.
Okay, tell us why.
Because, for instance, let's say you have a departmental store card. You could have one departmental store card.
Okay.
And then you could have one credit card that you would use for emergencies. Although it is not advisable to, you know, to have that. It is, you know, it is recommended that everybody should have an emergency fund. And, you know, down the line we'll come to that. We'll speak, you know, in that area. So you could have one that you would use for, you know, maybe for purchases, you know, and then you could have another one that you could use, you know, maybe for house things, like, you know, something from maybe a Home Depot card that you could use to buy stuff for home and be able to pay it at the end of the month, you know. But when it happens that maybe you have a Macy's card, you have a Lord and Taylor card, you have
JCPenney card, everybody have a card,
a Saks Fifth Avenue card, you know,
Victoria's Secret card, everybody have a card.
You know, when that happens, you know, it's easy for you to spend it.
It is.
You know, there was a study that was done, and they found out that people that swipe cards swipe them easily.
They do.
You know, but when somebody walks into a store and they have to pay with money,
You have to
Think
count.
about it.
Yes,
You
think
think
about
about it. You think, do I really need to spend $100 on
Yes.
this? If not, then you come back and you change your mind. But if you
Yes.
swipe, you don't really think about it.
Right.
It's the instant gratification or about this things
Yes.
that we don't need.
that we
Moment
don't
of
need.
truth.
Yeah, that we don't need.
So, yeah.
Very, very often, so many of the things we buy, well, we don't need it.
Yes.
You know.
We keep saying it's on sale, but everything is on sale according to the store. That is true. So we are talking about. So what is your advice? You know, somebody was one of our guests was asking. I will not advise the use of credit card. You know, because the FICO score puts you in debt. You know, so we talk about 3 credit card, and I like the way you explain it.
Right.
But some people said no credit card at all. So what will your advice be when it comes to credit card?
That is a very good question. So, you know, ideally, if you can stay without a credit card, that is good.
Okay.
You know, but the system here has been made in such a way that if you are not Dave Ramsey, who can afford to buy a house and pay for it, then you're going to need some form of credit.
Okay.
You know, if you are not somebody that is extremely wealthy, you know, that can walk into, you know, a dealership and be able to buy a Toyota and pay cash and walk away, then you're going to need credit. You know, and so I think it's imperative that we know how to use it. If you know how to use it, then there is no problem. You know, the problem comes in when people do not know how to use it, and people, you know, use it anyhow, and you know, the little thing, they jump on their credit cards. They, you know, somebody has maybe 15 pants, and they are still buying pants.
And they're not wearing them.
They are not wearing them. That is true.
And so it becomes a problem.
It is a problem. It is a problem, and we're trying to address the problem. So financial freedom. So one of our guests also asked, he said, I have $500 on my card. Right. So what will the credit utilization be? So what do I need to keep in terms of the minimum or use on the card for me to know that I'm being good credit utilization?
Great point. So if you have $500 on your card, you're looking at about 30% of $500.
Okay.
You know, so 30% of $500 is the most that you have to spend on the card. Okay. And you know, another good thing to do is, if you spend, let's say, about $50-something on your card, on your $500 card, at the end of the month, just pay it off. Pay it off.
That makes sense. You know, I think most times what happens is that we use it so often that we don't even realize how much we use it, and the bill coming, you're like, what?
Right.
I didn't realize that I charged that much.
Right.
But I think it pays to just sit back before you make a purchase to see, do I really have the money to pay that? If you don't have the money to pay that, not to overcharge on that card.
Right.
So, because the interest can pile up, and
Yes.
most people pay the minimum. And so then you are paying the minimum on the interest on what you have bought.
Right.
And so you end up paying more than
yes.
the worth of the object.
Yes.
So please don't do that.
Yes.
It's a vicious cycle.
Yes.
But when you fall into it, it's really hard to break that cycle.
Yes, and you become a slave, you know,
to the lender.
Cards, yes, to the lender, and you know, and I believe that God is calling us to a place where we have to walk in integrity. And also, we should be good stewards of what God has given us.
And walk free.
Walk free.
You talked about like needing to have credit or build credit because you might need credit and you need to show that you're credit worthy. Right. So how do we build that credit?
That's a good question. So to build a very, very, very solid credit, you can start from somewhere. So for instance, you could do what we call a secure card. So what is a secure card? A secure card is when you walk into, you know, a bank, and usually when people, for those of us that come from, you know, back home from West Africa or from any place around the world or wherever you come from and you're new here, you could walk into a bank and tell them, hey, I need a credit card, but I'm going to opt for a secured one. Now, the secured credit card is when they take your own money and they open a credit line for you. And usually they will do that and give you about 6 months to a year to prove your credibility.
Okay.
And then if you can prove your credibility, then they would give you your money back, and then they would give you their own money. The bank gives you their own money. And so that is a way, to start building credit. But, to answer your question very, very well, how do we build a very, very good credit? Stay below 30%.
Okay.
Stay below 30% of your card.
Even if it's secure?
Even if it is secured.
Okay.
Even if it is a secured card, stay within 30% or less. Okay. And you would build an excellent credit score. And, one thing that we also have to understand is there is something we call, the age of the credit. The age of the credit. The more you live here in this country, the solid your credit becomes.
Okay.
Your credit doesn't become, solid in 6 months, right? And so, as long as you have no missed payments, that is one thing we also have to take into
Let's talk about payments.
Missed payments.
Yes, missed payments. And, sometimes people think, oh, I'm gonna just let this month go. I'll pay it next month.
That is true. People
That's a big
tend to let things pile up.
Yeah, that's a big problem. And so you have to get in the habit of paying your card, maybe 5 days before it's due. That is what I do. For the last few years, I make sure that I pay my card 5 days before it's due. The reason why that I do that is I want to allow time for the transaction to go through.
That is true.
I want to allow time for the transaction to go through. And so if my card is due on the 10th, by the 5th, I make my payment. So by the 8th or by the 9th, it would have reflected and it would show on my credit report, right? And so that is a very good way to build your credit. Another thing that you could also do is to make sure that, if you, let's say you used $50 on your card, at the end of the month, you pay your $50. If there is a minimum amount that could be paid, like 25, sometimes people get in the habit of, let me just pay the 25 and, and then they use it again, and then before you know it, you are racking up about, $200 or $300. And it becomes a problem.
It does.
And then before you know it, you rack about $500,000, and then it becomes a problem, And so I advise mostly that if you used $50 at the end of the month, pay it off. If there is a minimum payment, that is about $25. Pay much more than the minimum payment, if you can, just so you can get it paid faster. So those are some of the ways to build a very, very solid credit. And another thing is discipline. Discipline. And we'll get there. Discipline is one of the things that everybody needs. Because if you're not disciplined, you will take the money for granted.
Of course.
And a lot of us think that, just as I said, you think, credit, is free money. It is not. Credit is not.
Credit is not your money. It's the bank money. The bank is in the business of making money.
Yes, they'll make money. I have this follow-up, though. So we're talking about paying the card off in time. I've also heard that just paying your bills in general on time also affects your credit score. Is that true or not?
That is true.
How?
That is true. Because there are some companies that report on your score, right? And they report on your activity.
Of course.
For instance, if you live in a home and you're paying for electricity, depending on what company it is, they may decide to report on your payments.
If you pay late.
If you pay late. Yes.
And if you pay on time, so they report.
If you pay on time, they may or may not. They may or may not.
We always report negative things.
Yes,
not
but we can
positive
guarantee,
things.
we can guarantee that if you've missed payments,
They will.
you might end up in collection.
Yep.
Yes.
So like rent, water bill, light bill,
Yes.
all these bills might pay on time.
Yes.
Okay.
So, and you know, it gives you a peace of mind.
Right.
It
It gives you a
does.
peace of mind.
It really does.
Yeah.
You know, so we're talking about credit card, and I think I like the fact that you mentioned earlier that it's good to have 3 credit card, and I like the way you broke it down into the department stores and the home store and stuff like that. You know, so most people by nature we tend to collect credit card, and I say
Right.
most people because if you look
Okay,
at
say
the
some people.
well, on the average, you are not the average co-host. But on the average, if you open to people's wallet, you will see more than 3 credit cards.
Right.
And, you know, I like the fact that you said 3 credit cards. So I think, you know, moving forward, people should look at your card. If you have more than 3 credit cards, I'm highly encouraging you, you know, to cut it out. You know, to cut the ones, you know, to choose 3 and
Right.
maintain 3.
Maintain
And then
3.
the rest of it, cut it out. Because when you have it, you're going to use it. And if
Yeah.
you use it, then you accumulate more debt. So
Right.
please cut them out because you don't need them. And keep the 3 that you know you're going to use. So choose your favorite store and then have the one for emergency and have
Right.
another one for home improvement and stuff like that.
Right.
Co-host, that brings me to another question. Somewhere I've heard that if you have a card and you don't want to use it anymore, you call to cancel it, it goes against you. Is that true?
That is very true.
It is.
How?
That is very true. So what happens is, we must understand that on your credit report, every card that you have is listed there, and you know your total available credit is reported there as well.
Okay.
And so, for instance, if you have a card from, let's say you have a card from Macy's, and you decide that, you know, I want to close that account, it means that the amount that you have on there is going to be closed.
Close.
That reduces your total available credit.
So what do you advise? Because
So
she's
what
saying cut some out.
If you
Yes.
cut it out, you didn't close it.
Yes.
So it's
Oh.
still on your credit score.
Right.
But
and you are
you-
not tempted to use it.
Oh, you mean
You
Cut the
a
card.
Yes, cut the cards
Cut
out.
the card.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
Not call them and cancel it, but just cut it out.
Yes.
So that
Okay,
you're not
I hope you
tempted
get it.
to use it.
Okay, so you
Yes.
don't have it. So you don't have
Yes,
it.
so you
Right.
don't have it, but it's still on your credit score.
Score.
Yes.
And
That
it's
you have
still
that
on your
money.
credit card that you have that money. So it
Right.
reflect good on you. And the revolving, and I think you want to talk about revolving.
I
but
want to talk about revolving.
Okay.
So
Awesome.
maybe if anybody has any questions, we can address them. And then we
Yeah,
can talk
let's
about
check,
revolving credit.
see what's on here.
No question yet.
Okay. So let's go ahead and talk about revolving credit. So revolving credit, mainly what is a revolving credit? So whenever you take a look at your credit report, there is a number of things that you would see. We talked about credit utilization and all of that. Now, revolving credit is something that is also very, very important. Revolving credit has to do with the cards that you have. You know, with the cards that you have. And now, for instance, if you have a credit card, it's a revolving credit. Why is it a revolving credit? Because there is an amount that is due at the end of every month. And it is something that, you know, is not a long-term loan. So anything on your credit report that doesn't have a long-term loan has a revolving credit.
That's good. Somebody said, is it advisable for your credit card, you know, to always pay the minimum amount? Is it advisable?
So,
So I would not advise anybody to pay the minimum amount unless that is all you can afford.
Okay.
If you can afford more, so for instance, if your minimum amount is, let's say, $50, and then you can afford 75, pay 75. You know, because it saves you from interest. Because we must understand that you will continue to build. You know, the interest is going to compound, and then it becomes a hurdle. So if you can pay more than their minimum amount, go ahead and pay it. Unless you cannot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. So as we're talking about, you know, when it comes to credit history, good or bad, you know, what are some of the habits that people form when it comes to credit? Apart from paying your bill on time, what are some of the good habits that we need to form so that we can break our old habit or our bad habits?
All right. So the number one thing is discipline.
okay.
Number one thing is discipline. If you don't have a need for for something, then you don't need it. You know, if it is something that you cannot sleep without, if it is something, well, maybe sleep without is maybe a wrong thing. You know, if it's something you cannot live without, you know, if it's something you cannot live without, if it's something that you definitely need to get or you will die, then you have to get it. You know, but if it's something that you can live without, you know, then there is no need. Then you can wait until you have saved up enough to get it. You know, for instance, I'll make an example. I saw a pair of shoes that I liked. You know, and I liked it so bad. You know, and I really wanted those shoes, but I was like, well, maybe I don't need these shoes now. What can I do? Maybe I'm gonna have to just save up and get it. So instead of, you know, putting a card on it, I decided, well, I'm gonna have to just save my stipend for every month. You know, and in my family, everybody gets a stipend at the end of the month, and so I get a stipend. So that is what I pay myself with. It could be $50 a month. It could be $100 a month. So if the shoe that I want to buy is a $150 shoe, and I have $50 a month, it means that I'm not ready yet.
Of course.
I'm gonna have to wait for the next 2 months to be able to buy that shoe that I want. You know, and so discipline. When we get to learn how to discipline ourselves in terms of buying only when we have saved up for stuff, then it makes it easy. Discipline is number one. Without discipline, you cannot.
Yeah.
Discipline is number one.
I like that. You know, I think one of the things I've also learned is that people use their credit card for everything. For grocery shopping, to eat, to buy gas. So it becomes you swipe, 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 swipe. And at the end of the month, you realize that you are spending more than you actually have to pay for, even invested into your account. So it is very important, don't swipe. You know, we are all creatures of habit. When you cultivate that habit, it's hard to break it. So we're just trying to help you. The moment you start swiping, you don't even think about the consequences. So please, help yourself. By having cash
and paying with cash.
Even when it comes to gas, when it comes to eating out, doing grocery, whatever it is. And I love writing checks. I know when you write a check nowadays, you stop the line. Everybody just stops like, okay, you are taking time. But I like writing checks because then I could tell, okay, I've deducted this amount from my amount, and you know, you can move on. So I think it really helps you to cultivate better spending management if you don't swipe your card all the time.
That's true.
Another thing that I also want to talk about whilst we're talking about the the revolving credit. And both of these are under credit utilization. So there's two things under credit utilization. There is the revolving credit and there is the installment.
Okay.
So let's talk about the installment.
Yes.
The installment is when we have long-term loans.
Okay.
You know, and so you could have a house, that's a long-term loan. You could have a car loan, that's a long-term loan. Those have a different way of calculation. You know, and so those do affect your credit, but they mainly affect your credit a lot more when you miss payments. When you miss payments, and so the installment credit probably forms a percentage of your total credit report, but the main thing is your revolving credit. Your revolving credit. That is what kills.
That's a short term.
That is the short term. So that has to do with credit cards, departmental stores, and all of these other cards.
Okay. So one of our guests also asked, is there any other way one can build a credit without having a credit card?
So without having a credit card, I believe that the main thing is having a credit card. I believe that the main thing is having a credit card. If you don't have a credit card, then maybe you're going to have to get a loan, and pay it for them to know that, maybe a car loan. But nobody's going to give you a car loan if you don't have a credit history. If there's no way for them to prove that
you can pay,
that you're credible, that you can pay, nobody's going to give you money. You cannot walk into, into a car dealership and tell them, hey, I am very, very credible. Look at me.
My word is good enough.
My word is good enough. And so give me a car, and they have no way to prove. You know, under certain circumstances, you can maybe get someone to co-sign, but I strongly discourage that. I strongly, over 101%.
The one person have to come in.
Yes, discourage that.
Yeah.
Okay.
If the person asking the question is a student, then I can chip in something. So if you are a student, that's kind of easier, especially if you're in tertiary institution, because it's looking at how you pay your bills quickly. So when I came, I went to school, and this is what I was taught. If I can start, I said I didn't want student loan. They said you will need it. If you can take it and then start paying before you complete, it's good. It builds up your score. And then also, if you are not able to start paying until you start working, it's still fine. But as soon as you start working and you start paying, you have to be on time. Because it's recorded that you are credit worthy, that you pay your bills on time. And that helps. Because I didn't have a credit card when I bought my house. And I still had a credit score. But that's what they told me helped. So it showed that I was paying on time. So, or if you're living in a house or you've rented an apartment, you need to be paying on time. If you're not paying on time, it goes against you.
Anything that you have your name on it, the water bill, your cell phone bill.
You need to pay on time.
Everything that you have, everything
you need to
that
pay
you
on
have
time.
your name on it, please pay on time. Because they want to know that you are, not only they are going to invest in it, they want to know that you can manage your resources. And that is what we are talking about. Financial freedom, meaning that you are managing the resources that God has given you. If you cannot manage the resources God has given, they say for those who much is given, much is expected. And we want you to be able to get more. And to get more, you have to
manage the little.
You have to deal with the little. And the little that you have to deal with, meaning that you have to make sure that all your bills are paid on time. Make sure that whatever you have, you are not getting more than, sometimes we buy more things than we really need. And then when you go to our closet, it's all junked up. We need to do a yard sale. We don't do a yard sale. But, the concept is we have to really do a better job in managing
just pay
our
on time.
resources.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
So that's good. People always said credit card and credit. Some people one of the questions somebody was asking, can somebody build their credit card after messing up their credit? So
that's a good question.
Can we do it? How can we do it? What does it take to build it up after you destroy your credit? Which we all do.
So it depends on the extent.
Okay.
But anybody that has destroyed their credit, it takes years to rebuild it. It doesn't just come in, as I said, in a year. For instance, if you've been taken to collections a number of times, that is going to stay on your credit report for at least 7 years.
What does it mean, being taken to
collections?
Collections.
So,
what's that?
For instance, if you
you are delinquent, they will take you to collections.
Yes.
And then what?
And then, so what happens is, for instance, if you took a cell phone from maybe T-Mobile, and then you were supposed to be paying every month, and you are not making your payments, they will be forced to probably take you to collections. So what happens is, as soon as you default on your payment, the first time, second time, if you're not fortunate for somebody to give you a call and, arrange payments with you, they will submit it to another agency. Which those agencies usually just buy debts.
Yes.
And so they buy debts and they use, compulsory means to extort.
So that's why your phone will be ringing 24/7.
Yeah.
They're calling you to collect their money.
That's why they are called debt collectors.
Yes.
Oh, so the collections is debt collectors.
Of course.
So they're coming to collect.
They are collecting. That's what they are.
Exactly.
Okay.
Because as the guest was asking, it's like talking about your credit. So not just your credit card, but your credit itself, meaning that you mess up your credit itself.
Right.
So all the debt collectors are calling you and all those things.
They all want their money.
All want their money. Some people tell you that you have to consolidate. Will you advise people to consolidate in terms of if you have more than one bill that is harming you or causing you headache?
Right. So if you have, let's tackle it from this way. If you have a very, very, very bad credit score and your credit is messed up, let's say you have delinquent delinquencies on your credit report, and you've been taken to collections and all of that. There is no easy way to come out of it.
Okay.
You are going to have to re-establish your credibility. Okay. And so one of the things you can do is you can either make an arrangement, to pay it off, and you can, make an arrangement to tell them, hey, I owe $3,000. I can't pay all of it right now. Can we come to an agreement? And then make the effort to pay them every month. Okay. When you begin to do that, although it will still show on your credit report, however, if anybody goes through your credit report, they will know, well, you paid the amount. They would know, well, you paid the amount. And so they could decide, well, because you paid the amount, we're gonna give you a try. We're gonna show you some mercy.
Second chance.
We're gonna give you a second chance. And that is very, very good. And especially it is good if you have if you're looking to buy maybe a house or a car, because they look at all of those things to see, whether you have any delinquencies and whether you paid them. Okay. There are some other companies that will tell you, we're gonna pause on this until you pay, some of the amount.
Okay. So I'm sorry to cut you off.
No.
So when you're talking about the person who has messed up their credit, the good thing is to call the company or whatever it is and start paying it off.
Start paying it off.
Okay.
And start paying it off. There was a school of thought that advised not to pay it at all. But if you're going to be able to stay for 10 years in a bad credit, then I can do that.
In all good conscience, as Christians, you cannot do that.
You cannot do that. And so you have to make conscious efforts, to pay them off, and then start building the credit. Okay. And as soon as one thing is, as soon as you begin to do the right things, you begin to, reduce your debts
spending,
and, stay within the payment periods and not go over the payment periods, you will see that things will begin to change. It may not be a 9-day wonder. It may take maybe 6 months to 8 months for things to start clearing up, but eventually they will clear up.
Okay, because she said, is it good to do the settlement with the creditors?
It is.
Okay.
Yes.
It is. If you can do that.
Because most people avoid the creditors. They call you and you ignore them. And some people try to change their telephone numbers. So please don't do that. Call them, answer their call, and then work with them.
Say something.
So that way it will work to your advantage.
Have you heard of credit repair, and what is it?
So I've heard of credit repair. So there are individual organizations that are around that assist people to repair their credits. But one thing that you must understand is some of these things are not done for free. So you can, when you go to a credit repair facility for them to assist you, we must also understand that they are not going to wipe off what is on your credit report. All they're going to do is to sit down with you, look at your income, look at your debts, and try to help you strategize ways and means to get out of the debt.
So out there, it's not cleaning your slate and making it look like you don't have.
There's
no agency here in the States that can wipe that out. There is no agency that can wipe that out.
So if they tell you they can do that, they're lying to you.
Yeah, it's not the truth.
Okay. It's false advertisement.
Yes, but they can help you,
turn a new leaf, kind of.
Yes. Look at, how much money you're making, look at how much payments you have, and try to, they can even go as far as negotiating
on your behalf.
And so they can do that. In fact, there is a state agency here in Maryland that does that. I think it is situated in Baltimore. And so if anybody has a problem, they could look for that agency and they would be able to get help. To be able to,
we need to find the name of that agency so we can put it out there.
Yes.
We'll definitely do that and put it out there next week to help you. Yes. And so, because our goal at the end of the day is to make sure that not only did you keep the income that you have, but also to be able to save.
Right.
So, we want to talk, we keep talking about big investment, and we talk about the car and also the house. So tell us, tell our viewers, what will it take to get a good, because most time when you're going to buy a car, the interest on the car can be very high,
Right.
and people don't even think about it. So please help us to understand what it means when it comes to buying a car, and what are you watching out for when it comes to interest.
That's a very good one. So sometimes people get excited about new cars.
Yeah,
we get excited about buying a new home.
Yes.
And we get overexcited, and sometimes we don't even think about the consequences.
No.
I've been following Dave Ramsey a lot, and a guy went to buy a car, and at the end of the day, he walked out with 26.99 interest rate.
I believe it.
On a car.
I believe it.
Because he had very, very bad credit, but wanted the car so bad. Now the main thing is, if you're going to be buying a car, there is some things that are very, very, very important, and I'm gonna share some of these things.
Please do.
Thank you. I want to know.
For instance, if you are buying a car, if you have the ability to pay off the taxes on the car, don't add it to a loan.
Wow.
Okay, so the taxes are sometimes on
the
loan.
taxes are different.
Yes.
Okay.
And they're added to the loan.
Yes.
Okay.
And so most of the time when we go to buy cars, we don't dig into some of these information.
Taxes on the car. Never even think about it.
Yes. There's taxes on the car. Let's say you're paying about $6,500 in taxes on a car. Can you pay this by cash? If you can pay this by cash, pay it off so that it doesn't become part
of your interest.
It doesn't accrue interest.
A taxes that accrue interest is a killer.
Yes, because they're going to calculate all of that into your total sum, including the dealership fees, and all these little insurance that you're going to come up with, And so one thing that I advise people is, if you're walking into a dealership to buy a car, at least if you can afford, have about 20% of the money of the car.
Wow, that's a lot of money.
Yes.
That's a lot of money.
of the amount ready. And then if you can, calculate how much you need for taxes. And tell them, hey, I'm going to pay the taxes in cash.
Okay.
And one thing that you should also learn to do is don't just walk into one dealership and buy a car. Look at 3 dealerships. Don't get overexcited. People get overexcited
about the
car. Can't make the right decision.
Yep, that's true.
Look at, if you're going to buy, for instance, if you're going to buy a Toyota, look at the 3 or 4 or 5 Toyota dealerships around your area. Go and look at the cars. And then, after you have looked at the cars, send them an email and copy all of the companies on it.
Yep. So then they will know that they have competition.
They will know they have competition.
Yep.
Because there is 200 and something or 3,000 cars sitting on the lot, and they want to get rid of them. And so don't go there. Just send them an email and tell them, hey, I am looking at this car. I have seen that you guys have it. Make a proposition of how much you want to pay.
Yep.
And don't go there and tell them, oh, this is what I can afford. No.
Don't do that.
If you go and do that, then they would sell you anything. Tell them, this is what I want. This is how much I'm willing to pay for it. And then you can bargain with them. Now, give them a specified time that you want them to respond. And so all the dealerships are, everybody wants to respond and send you a better deal. And so that is a way to buy a car. And then one of the things that you should also watch out for is you should use the prices against them.
Yeah.
If you walked into maybe Sheehy and a Toyota is selling for maybe 10 grand, and you walked to another store and it was selling for 12, use Sheehy's price.
Yeah.
And then look at the kind of things you're looking for in the car. Is it a Bluetooth? Is it maybe hands-free, or
Backup camera.
Yes,
backup cameras and BSM,
remote starter, or
yep,
whatever it
remote,
is. Yes.
remote starts and all of that, and then work all of that in your price.
Nice.
Yep.
Okay, that's good. So I like the fact that it tells you, we're telling you as viewers to really, before you buy something, do your homework.
Exactly.
Do your research and make sure that you're getting a good deal for your money, because at the end of the day, it's your investment. And if you don't invest wisely, you end up with bad results. Is it the same thing you use when you're buying a house?
You could follow the same trend, but it's just that in buying a house, it's different.
Of course.
In buying a house, you're gonna have to probably go through an agent. You're gonna have to, but it is better when you look at a number of houses.
Okay.
It is better when you look at a number of houses and be able to make a very, very sound judgment on which one and we have to just understand that when you are buying a house, it's a long-term investment, and so you don't want to just see anything and just like it. So you want to look at other houses and be able to make a very, very sound decision. And one of the things that sometimes we get overexcited and do not do is you need an independent body to inspect the house. And be sure that what you're putting money into is
worth it.
It's worth it. It's a
product.
sound, yes.
Okay.
It's a sound way to do things, or you would end up with something you do not really want.
You put into a money pit.
Yes.
And any investment is definitely worth taking the extra time to make sure you get it.
Yeah.
Right.
So we've been talking about financial freedom, and sometimes financial freedom and being credit free seem to be confused. But what do you think? Is it possible to be financially free?
It is.
Wow.
I believe strongly that you can be very, very financially sound, and it all boils down to the individual. You have to make a conscious effort. I remember that when we moved from Maryland to Kansas City, I met a guy that I worked with, and he had inherited about $2 million from his parents.
Wow.
So I got curious, and he was driving it wasn't an old car, he was driving a decent car.
But you thought his status was higher than that?
Yes.
And 2 million driving an old car.
Yes.
Not in our community.
And so I started to ask him, and I said, my friend, how did you get here? And he started to show me some things about how his grandfather left his mother $1 million, and his mother also left them $2 million. And it is his responsibility to double that for his kids.
Wow.
And so it has become a generational wealth.
Yes.
And it has become a generational wealth. But, back to your question, how do I become financially sound?
Yeah.
Number one thing is discipline. Have a plan. Have a budget. At the end of every month, reconcile your budget. How much did I spend on gas? How much did I spend on food? How much did I spend on eating out?
We have a caller on the line. All right, so we have a caller on the line. Let's take the question, and then we'll come back to our financial freedom. So, hello, caller. I hope the call is not dropping. Hello? Hello, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, thank you. We are listening.
I have a question.
Okay.
I'd like to know, are student loans factored into your credit when determining getting a loan to buy a house? Do they actually count your student loan debt when you want to get a loan to buy a house?
Personally, we will let our experts answer you, but personally, I don't know if they factor it in what I do know is they factor in all the bills you pay and how much you pay on time. So over to you.
All right. So they do. They do because they have to look at how much you owe, and it is something that you still owe. It's not something that has been paid. So if it is something that you still owe, they have to take that into consideration. And so the answer to that question is yes, they do.
All right.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you for calling in.
Okay.
Yes, so back to our freedom.
Right. And so in order for you to be, financially free, one of the things that you really, really, really need is a budget. A budget.
The magic pill.
A budget.
A budget. A budget.
It will be good for you to tell us about what to look at into a budget. So we will come to that another day.
Yes.
We have to come to that,
Another
how
time.
to make a budget.
Right.
If it's really important for our financial freedom and we want to
Very,
be
very-
financially
it is
free,
very,
then
very crucial.
we need
It's
to know
critical.
how to do it.
Yes.
Very, very crucial.
Yeah.
Because without a budget, then you would spend money anyhow.
Oh.
And you would not be able to see where your money is going. For instance, in my family, we have an Excel spreadsheet. It's something that we...
That's a serious family.
That is something we've been...
A spreadsheet. You gotta have a spreadsheet of expenses.
Yes, and that is something we've been following for a long time.
Okay.
Awesome.
And we have something we call a Mint. It's a Mint. There's an app called a Mint.
Mint. Yep. I like it.
Yes, and we use that to track all of our expenditure.
I like to do that.
Yeah. It's really
All
nice.
of our expenditure. So if I walked into Giant and I bought some African bread that I like, as soon as I get home, that goes under a specific category. It goes under food or it goes under grocery. So at the end of the month, we look at how much we spent on food. We also look at how much we spent. We know that our tithes is fixed. Our offering may not be fixed.
That's right.
Our offering is based on, things that are going on in the month, and when we go to church, and how sometimes you go to church and you feel that hey, you have to give a huge offering, based on
You are
how
led
Holy
by the Spirit.
led by the Spirit, and so all of these things are very, very crucial to financial freedom, and when you have a budget at the end of the year, for instance, at the end of the year, my wife and I sat down, we looked at our budget, we looked at how much we had been spending on food, and we looked at how much we had eating out, and now we came to a decision. Well, maybe we need to eat out more, because maybe we are located at the beginning of the year. This is how much we are looking to spend. We didn't spend that much, or maybe we don't have to eat out as often as we do, And so it gives you a sense of responsibility and allows you to be able to track your money, and it shows you whether you're saving or not.
Yep. It really helps.
It shows you whether you're saving or not.
Yeah, it does.
And Dave Ramsey has the snowball spreadsheet that I would send to you, and then we can share it on the platform for all of our viewers. And for us, it has helped us so much.
Awesome.
Because at the end of the day, we know how much we spent on money that went to tithe, money that went to mortgage, money that went into into daycare. All of that is designated, and then it also requires time. It requires communication. If you're a married couple, both of you need to sit down and be able to plan.
Yep. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Our time is fast spent.
It's
but
been awesome.
It has been
Thank you,
wonderful.
viewers.
Thank you so much for all the people that watch and their input. But before we close, if one single thing you want to tell our viewers when it comes to financial freedom, what would you want our viewers to learn today?
So one of the things that I want us to learn for financial freedom is make sure that you inculcate into yourself the habit of discipline. Habit of discipline. If you're a very, very disciplined person, you will do so well. The next thing is have a budget. Have a budget. Stay on budget. Do not do things anyhow. And that it all boils down to discipline. Have a budget. Do not do things anyhow. I understand that every now and then, things come up you know, build what we call an emergency fund. We didn't have time to talk about emergency funds,
Right.
but hopefully one of these days we can touch on emergency funds. You know, make sure that you are designating about 20 to 25% of your monthly income into some kind of emergency fund. It is advised that everybody should have 3 to 6 months emergency fund. You know, and so all of these lead to financial freedom. Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. So Moment Your Truth, we'll definitely be talking about finance, and we'll continue to talk about it the whole entire month. But our goal is always to make sure that not only do you get, as Christian, we always get information, but we want you to be a doer of it. So take everything that we said into consideration and start changing your lifestyle. And that will definitely help you when it comes to financial freedom, because it's a mindset. You need to work on that mindset.
Amen. Amen. God bless you so much out there. We're thankful that you joined us this evening on financial freedom. We want you to be financially free. We want to be financially free too. So we are all learning together. And the question we are putting out there, send us your thoughts throughout the week, is it possible to be financially free but not debt-free? Or is it that as soon as you're debt-free, you'll be financially free? What do you think? Put out your thoughts. Let's know what you think. Thanks so much to our guests for coming. Thank you so much, Deacon. You blessed us so much. God bless you. God bless you. Thanks to our viewers for tuning in. We encourage you to keep tuning in. Bring in your thoughts, your questions, your suggestions. And also tell somebody to watch Adonai, because on Moment of Truth, we are learning a whole lot. And by the end of this month, we know you're going to be a step closer to being financially free. And by the end of this year, we are going to be financially free.
Amen to that.
We thank our producer, Elder Richard Esifi, and the technicians for all of this. All of this that you're seeing is thanks to them. Thanks to El Shaddai International Market. We are thankful for your support and your sponsorship. Thanks to Ashon Collections. You can reach Ashon Collections on 0243-548925 for all your electronic devices. Also, thanks to Lean On Foundation Ministries for support and sponsorship. And if you're out there and you want to support us or to sponsor us, you're welcome to do so. Back to you, my host.
So, of course, we are part of Church of Pentecost, and we're having the Easter Convention. It is from the 19th to the 21st, and it's going to be at Crystal City. The address is 2799 Jefferson Davis Parkway in Arlington, Virginia. So you're definitely welcome to be part of us. We also want to give, we want to thank our national head, Apostle Marco, our regional head, Apostle Asemno, and of course our district pastor, Pastor Evans Boateng. And of course, thank you to our deacon for his wonderful support of all of us. And we really welcome you, and we thank you for all that you do. So thank you, our viewers.
Until next week. See ya.